Good morning, millionaires. Good morning, millionaires. I hope everybody's feeling good. My name is Haziq Ali, and I'm just here to help you make more money with your business. That's it, and that's all. We're gonna get started right now with another edition of Free Coaching Friday. Give me a replay, gang. If you're watching the replay, let's go.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, this is Les Brown, and you're in the right place at the right time.
Facts.
Because we're going to bring the millionaire out of you. Just hold on.
Let's go. Let's go.
Thank you. Please announce yourself. All participants are muted. Entry and exit tones are off. All participants are muted.
Hold on.
All participants are muted, and they can unmute themselves.
There we go. There we go. Okay, it's Free Coaching Friday. This is a special Advanced Sales Mastery edition of Free Coaching Friday. Hope everybody feels powerful this morning. Hope you feel like you are blessed to have woke up this morning, because you were not awakened by chance nor coincidence. The big homie wants us here. This is another day God done made for us, and we're going to make the most out of it. My name is Haziq Ali. If you've never been here before, this is Free Coaching Friday. I'm an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. I've never had a job. All I've ever done is build businesses. And this morning, just like every morning, we're here to help you build yours. We're here to help you feel more powerful. We're here to make it so that you get more involved and engaged in the needs of your clients, so that you get more involved and more engaged and getting closer and closer to your mass potential, this massive divine potential that God put inside of us, right? So what we do every week is we get together, right? And we make it so that you get to ask me anything you want about your business. Some of you know this, some of you don't, but every single Friday, there's a newsletter that we put out called Entrepreneurishment. If you've never joined before, this would be a good morning to do so. You always get 3 different sections in the newsletter. A lot of people think it's the best newsletter. It's the best email they get all week. You know what I'm saying? You're really going to enjoy this thing. It's always separated in a mindset, skill set, and heart set. And I'm really saying it in the wrong order. We always separate in mindset, heart set, and then skill set. If you get the newsletter already and you love it, let me get some fire emojis. Let me get some fire emojis if you know what I'm talking about, and you know that they need to be checking out the newsletter. If you feel like they should subscribe, give me some fire emojis. And while y'all are doing that, we're going to get into Free Coaching Friday. A lot of times, and the reason I brought up the newsletter right now is because a lot of times I'm getting the questions for Free Coaching Friday from people that respond to the newsletter, or people will send in their questions and respond to the newsletter. So if you want your question considered, or if you want your question answered, you can throw it in the comments right now. Or what you can do is you can respond to the email when it comes out every Fridays. So I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, y'all. What y'all say is the most annoying thing for you? Is it that when people say they want to think it over? Is it when the people break appointments? Is it when they flat out say no to us? What's the most annoying for you? What's the most annoying for you? I was just curious, man, because there's ways to avoid all this rejection, and we'll get into it in a minute. So somebody wrote in, they were like, yo, Mr. Ali, I have goals. I got a strong why, but I still hold back and I won't talk to prospects. What can I do to fix this? Anybody feel that way? Anybody feel that way? They got goals. They got a real strong why. They got a strong reason for doing this, but they find themselves procrastinating a little bit. Anybody out there can relate to that? I love when they say, what can I do? Because what it means is they ain't playing the blame game. So my suggestion to you, if you find yourself procrastinating, a lot of times that's a strategy to avoid pain, right? Fear is just the anticipation of pain. Am I right? What we want to do is get rid of the anxious anticipation of the result we don't want and replace it with the joyful anticipation of the result we do want. That's the key. We got to stop picturing the worst that can happen and throw ourselves into the best that can happen. But since we're talking about the worst that can happen, I dare you ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? I dare you think about that. Like, you know, some Olympic athlete, you know, they start in their 20s and whatnot, but the competition started at age 5. Who's going to be ahead, y'all? This guy's in his 20s. This guy's in his 30s or 40s right now, I'll say. Meanwhile, everybody else is in their 20s. I mean, what's the worst that can he knew he'd get smoked, right? He knew that everybody was going to crush him, but he's thinking to himself, what's the worst that can happen? All right, maybe I'll break some bones. No big deal, right? Well, check it out. With our business, you ain't breaking no bones. You know, if you look back at the civil rights movement, it's like, oh man, I'm in my 20s. You know, if I'm Martin Luther King, if I'm some of these other cats, you know, Eldridge Cleaver, right? If I'm Bobby Seale and some of those Black Panther guys, I'm saying, look, I really, really want equality. I really, really want to be treated like a human in this society. What's the worst that can happen? Oh, I could get shot. I could have my home. They'll burn crosses on the front yard, firebomb my house, etc., so forth. Guess what? For you, that's not going to happen. No one's going to firebomb your house because you are real brave and doing entrepreneurship. That ain't the same level as real brave during the civil rights struggle, or real brave during trying to get people to treat you like a human being. So what are we talking about? Right here, we're saying the worst that can happen is you get flustered. The worst that can happen is you be talking to that stranger that's ringing up your groceries and you kind of forget what you were going to say, right? But what's the best thing that can happen? The best thing that can happen is you meet somebody today that makes you $20,000 over the next 3-4 months. The best thing that can happen is one of your teammates who you put on a training, who you gave a book to read, who you pour into, they meet somebody who changes the whole business for you. That's the best thing that can happen. What's the best thing that can happen? Somebody give you a referral or 3 or 5. They let you on their social media timeline. My point is, there's so much upside and so little downside when you're playing as an entrepreneur to transform your whole life. And a lot of times you think you got a strong why, but if you're really holding back, if you find yourself still procrastinating, it's probably not the reason that's really driving you. It's probably not what you really care about. You probably ain't really turned up by that goal. So I would highly recommend that you re-examine that why and make sure it still qualifies. Even when you're talking to clients, you can do this, man. It's funny. We're going to talk about this at Advanced Sales Mastery this weekend at some point. But I want you to understand something, right? A lot of times you got to keep on being like, and how does that feel? Or, and then what? Or, oh yeah, and tell me about that. Because if you don't, y'all, they'll just leave you with a surface answer. Oh, I want to make some more money. Well, why is that important to you? Oh, because we're trying to expand the family. My wife is going to be pregnant soon. Oh, okay. Now see, there's your emotional reason. You see? So it even works with prospects, but you got to learn to do it with yourself. Like you say that you want this car, or you say that you want this home, or you say that you want this income level, right? But why is that important? Maybe you're not digging for your true why. Maybe you haven't found something that turns you on. Maybe you haven't found something you love on a higher level than what you're currently fearing. Might be worth you thinking about. Was that helpful? All right, y'all. How do I structure? So the next question this morning is like, how do I structure my organization? Is it better to go wide or deep? Somebody write this in the comments. Welfare kills ambition. Welfare kills ambition. Can somebody give me that in the comments? Welfare kills ambition. I'm going to tell you one thing you do not want to do, y'all, and that is be giving out a bunch of welfare to your team. If you have a home-based business, which this person has, obviously this coaching calls for all kinds of businesses, but I'm just answering the questions that come in. They were talking from a home-based business, point of view. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. For me, I'm all about holding contests. I'm all about giving people sincerity tests. I'm all about doing challenges. Difference between a contest and a challenge is that a contest is like first place, and then second place is the first loser, and in third place, right? Everybody else is a loser, but right. But with a challenge, everybody can win. Hey, if you do this much, then you're gonna get blank, And then another thing that I suggest when you're doing contests, other than doing challenges, or at least keeping in mind the difference between a contest and a challenge, is a lot of things. Another thing that I like to do is judge them on activity rather than results. So I can't always hold you to a certain result because we don't know what a customer is going to do. Buyers are liars, but what we can do is gauge ourselves off our activity. Does that make sense? So a lot of times if you're doing a contest, maybe you want to do it based on their activity. How many 3-ways did they do? Who met the most new people today? Who created the most social media connections? Who put up a post that got and responded to the most people? Who got the most favors done for them, right? Like who got the most shout outs? Like how many new timelines did each of y'all jump on today? Or if I'm on the Zoom and I'm talking to my whole little squad, maybe I'm like, who got on the most people's time? And then they win the prize, whatever it is. Am I making sense? Am I making sense? All right. So somebody else is like, when listening to prospects, what exactly should I listen for? How do I get them to talk about their problems? Ooh, this is a good one. Me and Jamal was just not talking about this. My man Molly Mall in the house. So basically, he's been studying with me a long time, and so he knows what I now call the principle of conversation. He knows that by the way I used to train on it, which was called assume awesome. If you want them to talk about their problems and they just so positive, everything, you got 2 different things you can do if you want to get them to talk about their problems. One thing you can do is just straight up ask them. Somebody type this in the comments. So tell me this, what do you love about working there, right? But then that's just to set up the next question, which is where you say, so what are your 2 biggest problems working there? You got me? That's how you get them talking about their problems. You ask them. You hear me? You ask them. But there's another way, because asking them, sometimes now you got to be doing a survey, or asking them means sometimes you got to like brave a little bit of that awkward feeling. I get it, but that's why when you're asking them, you either want to start off with asking them what they like best about it. Like if you're getting in there with your Uber driver and you want to get him complaining, be like, yeah, man, we're doing like an informal thing for my class. Our job is to ask, or I'm in this group and we're surveying Uber drivers, right? And I was just wondering, so what are your 2 favorite things about driving Uber? And then they're going to tell you, they all excited, right? And then you ask them, you say, and so okay, nice. What are your 2 worst? What are the 2 things you like worst about being an Uber driver? What are the 2 worst parts about being an Uber driver? You with me? Now they're telling you the worst parts. I hope I'm making sense to somebody out there. But a second way you can do it is assume awesome. Second way you can do it is using the principle of conversation. And what the principle of conversation states is that for a conversation to continue, somebody has to disagree. So if I'm talking to my prospect, right, and I'm like, yo, so what do you do in your free time? Yeah, exactly, Jamal. So I'm like, what you do in your free time? And then they'd be like, yeah, such and such. I might be like, do you wish you had more? Don't you wish you had more? And they're like, oh yeah. And then maybe you'd be like, but yeah, with y'all, oh, you're a blank. Oh, you work at the warehouse, or oh, you whatever they do. You're like, man, I heard that's a dream job. Right? I heard that's a dream job. What they gonna say? What they gonna say, y'all? They gonna be like, this? Oh, heck no. We're overworked. We're underpaid. The boss is a jerk. I got to commute too far to get there. They're constantly sucking my dreams out my ears. I hate that, right? All because to keep the conversation going, they got to disagree with me. Just like if I went to them and I was like, man, that, working there must be rough. They're like, no, that's not so bad. I get to kind of like think about other stuff all day because my job don't really demand a lot of me. I got time while I'm there to be hunting for other jobs, to be hunting for a second job, I should say. Does everybody get what I'm saying? The principle of the conversation is that if we're in a big group, if me and the fellas is in the barbershop, and then we talking about it, and we like, somebody's like, man, the best team in the NBA is the Lakers, and everybody agrees, the conversation is over. If everybody's like, yeah, you sure right. The conversation don't start until one of the gentlemen is like, the Lakers can't see Golden State. Now the conversation starts. If nobody disagrees, there's no conversation. So somebody say, assume awesome. If you want them to give you some problems, assume awesome. And then they'll start pouring problems out. Or you can start off saying, I'm in a group, we're doing a survey. Wanted to ask you, what are your two favorite things about doing what we do? And then I wanted to ask you, what are the two worst things about doing what you do? And you are in a group doing that, just happens to be your business. Am I making sense? Yeah, Charles. Appreciate that, King. Exactly, P.O. That must pay really, really well. I got a cousin that does that. He loves it. Boy, that must pay really, really well. I like how P.O. put them two reallys in there. Y'all got me? Assume awesome. My man JL checking in. Is this making sense to somebody out there? Okay, so somebody else is like, I asked for appointment. Then my prospects asked me, tell me a little bit about it first. What can I say to them so that they'll give me an appointment for a presentation? If I say too much, they'll look for reasons not to give me the appointment. If I say too little, then they'll say, oh, let me think about it. That's excellent. I love how the person asked, and they are showing themselves to not be an amateur. They understand a little something. That's a really powerful question. Because they're right. Giving too little information is bad, and overwhelming them with information is bad because the brain doesn't operate in a way where it wants new information. Somebody put this in the comments. The brain hates information it didn't ask for. Can everybody understand that? This is a big key to your entrepreneurship career. The brain hates information that it didn't ask for. I mean, if you think about it, you do the same thing, right? You're watching YouTube. You can't wait for it to say skip ad because you didn't ask for that. They've got to try really hard, and they've got to make sure they're targeting you with precision because if not, I ain't asked for this. Now, the job of a marketer is to get in line with what you are asking for at that moment and make my product sound like the answer to that. You got me? But when you're out here and you're just talking to prospects, it's important for you to understand that, A, we don't want to keep secrets, right? And two, you don't want to give them too much information because that's not how the brain works. That's exactly right, Daryl. That's exactly right. The brain hates information that it didn't ask for. So what you got to do a better job of, man, if they're procrastinating, if your icebreaker didn't work, then what you want to do is you want to build more rapport. We're going to talk about this a little bit this weekend at Advanced Sales Mastery, but there are 3 ways to build rapport. You may want to write this down in your notes, especially if you come into ASM this weekend, because you're going to hear it again, and now you're that much closer to it becoming a part of your commonly held knowledge. aka your philosophy, your point of view. Millionaires, there are 3 different ways to build rapport that I teach. There's a bunch of ways to do it. Just smiling builds rapport. Because just because you smile, I kind of want to smile back at you. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all feel yourself doing it right now if you're watching me. It's just like, because you got these things called mirror neurons. And if you frown at somebody, you want to frown back. Even a baby. If you smile at the baby wants to smile back. It's amazing how it works. So that's one way you can build rapport, but that ain't even the main 3 I'm talking about. Another thing you can do while you're smiling is give a genuine compliment. That builds rapport. Millionaires, rapport is 80% of this thing. Rapport is 80% of your sale. Rapport is whether they know you, whether they trust you, whether they're even going to listen to you with an open mind. That's rapport. So you can start off giving genuine compliments. They like, oh, okay, we kind of agree on something. I'm the best. You see what I mean? That builds rapport, especially if it's a genuine, sincere compliment. Another thing you can do is you can say 2 facts in a row. You know, mess around, say 2 facts in a row. The third thing you say is just going to get accepted. So I can be like, prices are going crazy out here because of this inflation stuff, right? And that might be too long. Maybe I just be like, prices are going crazy these days, right? And it's safe to say our paychecks are not keeping up with the price increases. I guess we all on the same page that our paycheck ain't going up quite as fast as prices. They're like, man, he preaching. Then I say, and everybody knows the only way to escape it now is to have a little part-time business. And they're like, I mean, yeah, I guess that, right? Because I already gave you 2 facts. You accept the third one. Somebody say 2 facts in a row makes them like me more. 2 facts in a row makes them like me more. 2 facts in a row will open the door for the third. So that's another way you can build rapport. But check it out. Here's the easiest way to build rapport, y'all. Somebody say questions are the answer. Questions are the answer. Earlier this week, I gave you this upfront contract concept, right? But what I want you to understand is if you're talking to them and they ain't really listening to you, et cetera, and so forth, you just haven't built enough rapport. And one quick way that you can build more rapport, y'all, is you can ask questions. Questions are always going to build more rapport for you. So maybe you start that thing out. You know, I'm just curious. Are you looking more for a part-time or a full-time income? Another thing you can do to build more rapport is what we call mind reading. We call it mind reading. You know, because in that first example, when I say, well, you're looking more for a part-time or full-time income, now they're like, yo, I didn't even know I could make a full-time income. Now they're getting more emotionally involved. You know, were you looking for a little bit of income or a lot of income, right? But another thing that you can do when they're like, when we're asking them questions, right, is, you know, you can ask them questions about how long they've had this problem. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. One of my favorite is tell me a little bit about yourself, because whatever you say first, I know that's the main thing that's important to you. Like if I'm talking to a man and I say, tell me a little bit more about yourself. And they say, well, man, I got 3 kids. I said, boom, I know he's a family man because he started off with that. You get me? If he said, oh, well, I work down at the, then I know he's career driven. You get what I'm saying? I just wanted to throw that out there. So questions will help you build more rapport. Ask more questions. I want you to think about it, man. If you walked into the doctor's office and he just handed you a prescription, but he didn't even ask you nothing first, I feel like you'd feel some kind of way about that. Am I right? I feel like you'd feel some kind of way about that. So what I suggest you do is ask more questions. All right, the last one somebody asked me this week that we'll get to. Yeah, it opens the door for a third statement, P.O. Yeah, Charles, 2 facts in a row. And, you know, if y'all want to get some bonus points, what you could do is put 2 facts that you could say in a row in the comments right now. Put 2 facts that you could say in a row when you're talking to somebody today. Man, great weather we're having today. Right? That's a fact. What's another fact? You know, if I start off with great weather we're having today, maybe another fact I have is like, you know, I sure wish this was I should. Okay, so if I start off and I say great weather we're having today, that's a fact. Then what if I said after that, 3-day weekends sure are better than just 2? Or man, don't we all wish that we could have a 2-day work week and a 5-day weekend? Right? That's another fact. So if I'm like, man, great weather we're having today, and then I'm like, boy, these jobs sure do interfere with our weekend, right? It's like I'm building rapport. I'm stating facts in a row. So I dare you try that. You're like, man, I can't think of that off the top. Well, that's why we're doing it right now, because you're amongst family. It's a perfect time for you to kind of like put some thought into it so that you're ready for the day that lies ahead. Because guess what you're going to meet out there? People. Guess who's going to be, you know, ringing you up at the gas station? Guess who's going to be bagging your groceries? Guess who you're going to run into when you hop into the Uber? Guess who's going to be waiting on your table when you go to the restaurant? Human beings. Human beings. They're everywhere, y'all. And what you got to do is stop prejudging people. You got to stop looking at them and being like, oh, they'd never do this. Because guess what? You were once pumping gas. You've been in a grocery store standing in front of or behind somebody before. So what makes it impossible that they looking for a business? You're in there and you were once looking for a business. You see what I mean? If you want to know where to find people, ask yourself, where was you? And then have some good questions. Have some good opening questions for them. I dare you look at it like that. All right, the last one we'll cover today. Somebody's like, what are some quick follow-up tips? I don't know what to say when I'm calling them back. So I got a little rhyming thing. There's a bunch of ways to follow up. But this morning, how I'll teach it is inquire, inspire, make them perspire, or light a fire. So inquire is, hey, man, how's it been going with that problem you told me about? But not in those words. I'll name specifically the problem they told me about. That's inquire. Inspire is, man, remember that problem you told me about? My man Charles, he done solved that with flying colors. Like, remember you were talking about how, you know, you was ready to make this the last year you pay rent? My man Charles was just like you, and they just closed on their house last week. They just closed on their house. That's inspire. So far I told you about inspire. I told you about inquire. What is light a fire? Light a fire is if I come to you and I'm like, yo, I tell you what, I'll move this person under you, but you got to move in the next 24 hours, you know, because I got to move them right now. And if you sign up now, then I'll be able to put them out there, right? And then make them perspire would be more like a pullback. So that's when I say, hey, listen, man, I know this business isn't for you, but do me a favor. But could you do me a favor? I wouldn't say do me a favor. I'd ask, could you do me a favor? And then when they say yeah, then I might say something like, if you run into somebody else that's looking for a second income, could you please recommend me? And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll be like, wait a minute, I didn't say I wasn't. They'll start writing you back immediately. Some of y'all might want to try that right now. I dare you this morning when we hang up from this thing, because we about out of here. When we hang up from this thing, y'all, I dare you text somebody you've been following up like, hey, listen, I know this isn't for you. I totally get it. It's all about timing. But could you do me a favor? Now they're like, you see all the tension leave their shoulders. They're going to write you back. Sure. What's the favor? Or they're going to be like, well, no, I didn't say I wasn't interested, but what's up? You see, or you can type it all in the same message. But could you do me a favor? If you bump into somebody else that wants to stop renting and start setting themselves up for home ownership by next year, could you recommend me, please? So that's a quick follow-up technique for you. All right, y'all. Let's go. It's affirmation time. Calling right now. We always start with the two most powerful yet shortest words in the whole English language. Of course, I'm talking about I am. I dare you, millionaires. Say it with some emotion. Say it with some